Chalk Talk number 1. Here we have our cherry tree, one of our most recognizable features on campus. The air in which our cherry tree and all organisms rely on has carbon dioxide in it. This carbon dioxide makes its way to our cherry tree through its leaves. On the bottom of the leaves, one can find tiny pores called stomata. The opening of these pores is regulated by the cells being drawn out right now, our guard cells. These cells become turgid by absorbing water and allow for the entry of gases into the cherry tree's leaf. The leaves have a specialized layer which has air spaces and allow for the entry and exit of gases. This is called the spongy mesophyll. Underneath the spongy mesophyll, one can find chloroplast-packed cells which are called palisade cells. These cells perform photosynthesis and convert the carbon into a form that is significantly more useful for our cherry tree. This is glucose. Glucose is not only the product of this reaction. We also get oxygen, which is essential for all life. Glucose is very important for the plant as it is one of the substrates of the respiration reaction. Out of respiration, we get back some carbon dioxide, which makes its way back into the atmosphere, the same way that carbon dioxide made its way into our leaf. This is through the stomata. Glucose is not the only form in which carbon is used in the plant. It sometimes gets converted into sucrose as well. These two molecules are our plant's main sources of energy. The way the carbon in these molecules make its way throughout the plant is through the phloem sap, which is the liquid that is transported through a phloem. Negative pressure theory suggests that there is a higher pressure where the carbon is created, known as the source, than when the carbon is needed, known as the sink. This allows for our carbon to move throughout our entire plant. Now that we know how carbon is transported, let's explore its uses. Firstly, glucose is combined with nitrates to form amino acid, the building blocks of protein, which have many uses in our cherry tree's growth, and other factors. Furthermore, glucose and fructose make the sucrose, which is present in the cherries. This makes the fruit very appealing for animals, such as birds, which allow for the dispersal of the cherry tree's seed. This allows for the growth of a new tree, which follows the same processes explained in this video. Glucose is also used in the plasma membrane, specifically in the rosette terminal complexes, which synthesize cellulose of the cell wall using UDP glucose. This is essential for the cherry tree's structural stability. Glucose is also converted into fats, which are used in the seeds. The lipids provide the plant with energy during the time period where it cannot photosynthesize. This allows for the growth of a new cherry tree, which follows the same processes explained in this video. The last way in which carbon is used in our plant is as storage in the form of starch. The journey of our carbon does not end here, however. Whenever a bird eats and digests a seed, it gains glucose, which is used for the bird's cellular respiration in its mitochondria. This reaction once again releases carbon back into the atmosphere. The same applies for all primary consumers. Although this is yet to happen, when the death of our cherry tree arrives, its organic material will be consumed by detrivores, such as the swarm, which will respire the carbon left in the cherry tree's remains. This will bring back more carbon into the atmosphere. Millions of years into the future, our cherry tree will have been compacted by fossil fuels. These fossil fuels will be then extracted by humans and combusted. This is the final way in which carbon dioxide makes it back to the atmosphere. Chalk Talk number 2. Here we have the fruit that gives our fabulous cherry tree its name. The most important part about the fruit is the cherry pit, which is the seed. Our seed will remain dormant until it has the right conditions, and this will ensure the best likelihood of its survival. Once conditions have been met, the development will depend on ambition, which is the uptake of water due to the low water potential inside the seed. This will allow the plant to burst out of its shell and start growing. It will take about 7 to 10 years for our cherry tree to reach sexual maturity. Once mature, our tree will be responding to a number of environmental factors to determine the most convenient time to blossom. These factors include the day length, soil moisture, and air temperature. Once these factors reach satisfactory levels for the tree, the gene APTL1 will produce a putative transcription factor that will regulate petal and sepal development. This gene will also send a stop signal to regions of root and shoot growth. Now that the gene has been activated, our buds will grow and burst out to become flowers. Now that our cherry tree has finally blossomed, and most importantly, both the carpel, which is the female organ comprised of the stigma, style, and ovary, and the stamen, the male organ comprised of the anther and filament, are now exposed. We are going to focus on the ovary and the anther. The ovary has a set of various ovules with megasporangiums. The anther has a megasporangium known as a pollen sac, which is filled with microsporocytes. Each ovule in the ovary will divide by meiosis to produce 4 megaspores. Only one of them will survive. On the anther, each microsporocyte will divide by meiosis to produce microspores. The surviving megaspore will perform a set of divisions and give rise to the female gametocyte, which is ready to be fertilized. The microspore will also divide to produce 2 cells, the generative cell in orange and the tube cell in green. This is our cherry tree's male gametocyte, more commonly known as the pollen grain. Once the pollen grain reaches the stigma, either through insects or the wind, the tube cell will collect water and germinate to produce a pollen tube. On the other hand, the generative cell will divide to produce 2 sperm cells, which will fertilize the female gametocyte. One of the cells will fertilize the egg cell, forming a zygote. The other will fertilize the central cell, producing the endosperm. The endosperm will provide food for the zygote, which will eventually grow into an embryo. Simultaneously, a seed coat and fruit tissues will form around the seed coat. Once the process is finished and we have a fully formed and mature fruit, we are back at the point at which we started the video.